As we continue to learn about arrays, we will understand how important the array data structure is. Today in this video, we are going to learn some important and useful array algorithms and operations. These algorithms are going to make things easier. So as we arrange our data in arrays, later on we can process these arrays and get very useful output out of it. So the first thing that we will learn is how to get the maximum and the minimum numbers in an array. So if we go here and build an array, for example here, very simple, and we say here integer array, I'm going to call it int array is equal to new, or we could just hard code the values there, and we put 50 to 150 -5. All right, and the question is, how can we get the maximum, which is, we can see here, negative 150, and the minimum, which is the -50, sorry, the -5, and how can we create a method that gives us, one of them gives us the maximum, the other gives us the minimum. So let's start here, and before we start, let's think about it. So if you have these values stored here, so you have 50 to 150 and -5. So for us, it's very simple. We look at it and then we know this is the maximum, this is the minimum, right? However, if you try to break down your process, how do you really think about it? All right. So if you try to put it in a systematic step-by-step way, you would say, first of all, I will start with 50 and say, this is my maximum. All right. So for example, here I will have max is equal to 50. Then I go and check this number. I say this is 2. 2 is not greater than 50, so I still have maximum of 50. Then I go next and check 150. I know 150 is greater than 50, so I update my max to be 150. Then I go to -5. -5 is not greater than 150, so I end up with having max equal 150. Now let's do the same thing. Minimum is going to be 50. Then I move to the next step. I find 2. 2 is less. Then I update this to be 2. I go and update here. I find 150. 150 is greater than 2, so I do not update it. Then I go to -5 and find that 2 is greater than -5, so update min to be -5. So I end up with min is equal to -5. All right, so this is basically the step-by-step approach that we can think of. And the reason why we think in a very basic and elementary way here is that we need to instruct the machine, the computer, to take these step-by-step or this step-by-step approach to solve the problem. So here I could say public or even private static int find max. All right, which takes an array of integers as an input. And here I'm going to process this. So in this case here, I'm going to say, for example, max num is equal to array of 0. So that is me assuming the first number or the first element in the array is being the maximum number. Then this is an int, and then what I will do is that I will say, okay, so for int I is equal to 1, I is less than array.length I plus plus, and here my condition is that if array sub I, right, is greater than the current max num, replace max num with the array sub I. Otherwise, leave it as is and do not change anything. Once you're done, so here we go. Once you're done, what you want to do is to just return the max num. Right? So let's, for example, here say system.out.println line, and say, for example, here int or find max of int array. There we go. Something like this, 150. All right, so that's the basic idea. The first element here, 0, right? So this is the indexing. It goes this way. 0, 1, 2, 3. So what I say is that max num is equal to array sub 0, which is equal to 50. Then I start to loop from 1 all the way to 3, and every time I compare this number with the current max num, the process that I explained here. If it's greater, replace it. If not, then just move to the next one, and so on. So that should take care of getting the maximum number. Now you can imagine getting the minimum would be something very, very similar. So private static int find min takes an integer array as an input. And what I'm going to do first is that I say the min num is equal to array of 0 or sub 0. And then for int I is equal to 1. I is less than array.length I plus plus. Go over these elements, and what you would do is that if array sub I is less than the current min num, in this case update min num to be array sub I. Now what if they are equal? Then you don't need to update, it doesn't matter, right? And it doesn't matter because you are not concerned about where this minimum is. So you don't care about the location. So as long as you keep going through the array and find this minimum and maximum, you are good. So here what I'm going to do is to return the min num. Right? So if I repeat this process here, but instead of find max, I will make it find min. I expect it to return the -5. Perfect. All right, so here they work. And notice here that it's function in the array.length. So the field, the public field for the arrays, array.length, is the one that controls the loop, which tells us that no matter what you do here, if you add any number of elements, it's still gonna work, right? Something like this, right? So we keep updating and keep working. So that's it for the finding min and max. I will keep video short, so this will be one, and then I will talk about more algorithms and methods in a different video.